This is Laura Ingram. Join me every weekday morning on The Patriot. Stay tuned. Live with Lou is next. Don't touch that dial on 1410 The Patriot.
Well, good morning. You're listening to Live with Lou. This is Lou Benninger. In some minds, I arose from the dead. I'm out here with the Wiki Man Santos Vigil, and we are recording a live program on the 19th for the 20th. It's not a rerun. It's not the leftovers. It's not the best of. It's not the worst of. We're just doing a show of. We're not going to underwhelm. We're just going to whelm you today. And so we can't be here together tomorrow. We tried to do this last week, and it just didn't work. And people, when they heard some other program in my spot, instead of, I don't know what the other alternative things they might think, but they thought I dropped dead, I think. So they called the hospital and said, is he over there? They called the morgue, said, is he there? Because when you get this age, you know, you're on borrowed time, as they say. So if you have a chance to listen, and it sounds like me, it probably is me, and it's Saturday the 20th of April. If you're in Linden Olivers and you're out there tweaking or shooting heroin, it probably doesn't make any difference who's talking or when we're talking or what day it is, because you don't have a job anyway. So we're here, and we're happy to be here. We're happy the station is working this time. The other time I was talking, but nobody was listening or recording. So tonight it's on. We got hot coffee. We have cold water. We got a few cheap almonds to feed us, and we're going to make a go of this for 3 hours. So if you're listening at the right time of the week, which is Saturday 9 to noon, you're on the spot. So if you're out there in a fringe area, like we reach into about 5 counties. We're out here in East Yuba County, out in Linda, on top of Mount Huth, and it's sunny today, so we didn't have to use any four-wheel to get here. I think those days are over. We're going to have to coast through the summer now. But if you're out there a ways and you're not getting a strong signal, then you can go to knycradio.com and you can click on the Listen Live button, and it should be playing for you if the live stream is working. If that isn't working, my friend Chris Starkey, who bails us out here, will take this show and he'll edit out some of the recordings that we use, because you can't use them on YouTube. And he has a channel called One Eye Blind Media. One Eye Blind Media, 4 words with a space in between. Go to that YouTube site, click on Live with Lou, and pick your show that you want. So you can listen any time of the night or day there, or you can listen in the future or whatever. So we got a few things to talk about here today, and I want to first of all mention that we're brought to you by a couple of my favorite people here, Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots. I was out I couldn't attend the meeting where they had the supervisors speaking the other night out at where they meet at Church of Glad Tidings, but man, it seemed like did you go to Wiki? You go to that? Was there a lot of people? Not so many. There were a lot. Okay, there were a lot of cars out there. Maybe everybody drove 2 cars. So the parking lot had a lot of people in it. Maybe there was something else going on as well. So Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots helps us out here, and they meet on the 1st and 3rd Monday of every month, and they have been conducting these opportunities for you to listen to the candidates. And I've had a friend of mine who came to the meeting last Monday night and really enjoyed listening to the supervisors. And after he listened to them, he made his decision what he was going to do. So that's a Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots. They meet, as I mentioned, the 1st and 3rd Monday nights of the month at 6:30. You can get in at 6. And it's a good thing to be involved in. They have a lot of great speakers, and you don't have to belong. You don't have to join. You can if you want to, I'm sure. And they got some refreshments, so go check it out. So we'll talk about the others a little bit later, but I also wanted to mention to you that a really cool thing is coming up. Some friends of mine, Dave and Leslie Greenitz. Leslie Greenitz is a phenomenal kind of performing arts guru. Dave is a contractor who on the side specializes in building phenomenal sets for plays. He's done it for Faith Christian School. He's done it for the Creative Light Theater for years. So every once in a while, like 2 or 3 times a year, the Creative Light Theater puts on these amazing plays, and some are just a straight play. Most of them all are original writers, local actors, original music. And then sometimes they, instead of just doing a play, they do a dinner theater. And they use the idea of a dinner theater, a 3-course meal, with a 3-act play with raffle prizes. They use that as a fundraiser. So sometimes they'll raise money for organizations like the Feather River Men's Center or that type of thing, or maybe a missions trip overseas or some kind of benevolent activity. This year, they're going to put this event on for needed upkeep and upgrades and repairs out at the campus where they operate out of. So they meet in the theater out there or a big meeting hall, and it's got a kitchen, and it's, anyway, the room is changed to be a big theme meal, and then they perform up on the stage while you're eating. So May 20th through the 25th, the Creative Light Theater is presenting Job, J-O-B. Some people, if they haven't read the Bible much, you think it's Job. But it's said Radio City presents Job. And it's going to be a very cool play. It's 1939 as a setting, and the radio is presenting a premier source of entertainment to America. And they are going to do a modern rendition of the story of Job. That's a book in the Bible. And it should be very fun. It's sort of a melodrama. And you can get involved if you've never been to anything like this. You don't have to go out of town. It'll be equal to anything they do down in Sacramento or wherever. But it's $200 for a table of 10, $22 per single ticket. And you can bring your honey or your friend, or if you want to buy a table for a bunch of friends and just have a nice night out, you can do that. So it's every night, May 20th through the 25th, 6:30 at night. It'll probably end up about 9:30 in the evening. So if you want to get in on that, you can just make a phone call. And you call, let's see, 673-3160 for tickets or more information, 671-3160. Usually there's a live person answering the phone Tuesday through Friday, 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. You could leave a message at other times. All right? So I think we have a recorded commercial, too, that we may play later, and they'll probably be better than my rendition. But I just wanted to hit it a couple times because I like plays. I've been going to them since I was in college. I dipped into my first play in college. I thought, oh, this is cool. I like this live stuff. So I just saw on Facebook that a bunch of our elected officials and other folks, paid employees out over in Yuba City, flew back to Washington, D.C. on our dime, spent $6,000 apiece. I thought, you know something? If they're not flying back spending our money, then they're complaining they don't have any money, and they need to raise taxes, and they complain that the pensions are too high, and they can't pay the pensions, and they can't pay this, and they can't pay that, and they need to raise the fees to have a business, and they need to raise the fees to come and have an inspection, and they have to have a fee every time you turn around. Then they turn around. You know, if I was a politician and I went back to Washington, D.C., I would not put it on Facebook. Because all the people that are working hard back home, working their fingers to the bone, and they just got done getting ripped off by the state and federal government and the county on taxes, right? We just got through paying through the nose on property taxes and paying for things like Yuba College, where we have free tuition for DACA students, and paying for illegal aliens to have DACA fees of $500 paid. We just got through paying all those fees. Now we got through paying all of our taxes, And the Trump tax reductions haven't come in yet. And then you look on there, and there's all these people, some of them making $150,000 a year. Somebody like John Buckland, who's retired from the police department, he's still on the government handout, on the government dole. So we paid for not only his retirement and his monthly payment and all his benefits, a free cell phone, and maybe he gets per diem to drive around town and tell people how great he's doing. Then we got to pay $6,000 for him to stay back there and eat some fancy meal instead of a tuna sandwich like I had, and gets to eat back there and take photographs of himself standing in the Capitol. And just, isn't it nice? I thought, you know something? How far away have we gotten from what the Founding Fathers believed in? And everybody's got their hand in the till, so nobody can turn in on anybody else because everybody's dipping. Everybody's dipping into the till. So I just noticed the other day, did you buy gas? Holy mackerel, gas. Gas is like heading towards $4 a gallon, and Obama isn't the president. That's what's scary, right? I mean, we haven't got Stephen Chu, the most intelligent Chinese guy in America. We haven't got Stephen Chu at the head of the Energy Department where he promised us $9 a gallon gas, but we got, I think I paid $3.15 the other day, or $3.19, I think. I drove over into Oliver's to get the cheaper gas to get out of the city of Marysville. But I saw on Gas Buddy, I've been making friends with Gas Buddy, gasbuddy.com. Go check that out if you want to find out where the cheap gas is. And they, all over the United States, you can check out the gas. So I was looking, I saw an article on April 11th, said gas prices increasing 14% on the summer. Now, do you remember the gas tax that all the Democrats, you know, the perverts in Sacramento and all the La Raza guys, they raised your gas taxes. You remember that? $51 or $52 million. They raised it 12 cents per gallon. But normally in California, we have the highest gas prices in the United States. If you look at Gas Buddy's map of the United States, there's a lot of cities that are paying $4.25, $4.35. In fact, when I go to San Francisco and I drop my car off there to fly overseas, there are gas stations down there in San Bruno. I'm telling you, they're $1 higher than they are here, just in San Bruno. They just hammer people down there. Anyway, the reason they're higher in California is we have these crazy environmentalists that are running around screaming global warming when they're freezing their butts off, and they convinced the government that we need to have a different mixture of fuels in the summer. It's a summer blend, they call it, and not every refinery makes it, so it's very, very expensive. You know, it's supply and demand. If everybody wants it in the United States, high supply or high demand, and therefore the supply goes up and the prices go down. But when there isn't a big demand and there's a pain in the rear to make it, like this super blend that's supposedly going to be less toxic to the environment, then it costs more. So the prices are much higher in California. AAA says that drivers statewide are paying an average of $3.52 a gallon. This was a week ago. It's gone up from now. It's going up every week. Last month, in March, they paid an average of $3.37 a gallon. A year ago at this time, there was $2.99 a gallon. Who do you think the gasoline prices hurts more? The poor, because a bigger percentage of their money ends up going to transportation. People who've got a lot of money, like Darren Gale making over $150,000 a year over there in Yuba City, or some of the firefighters making $200,000, $300,000 a year, they don't care what the price of fuel is. They don't care. Screw everybody. Screw the poor. They don't care. So they just keep contributing to this. They keep voting for people to jack up the prices. So in Marysville, I'll give you a little idea of what the prices are. I've been following some prices not too far from here that are pretty cheap. For instance, in Marysville, it's $3.19 when I took my reading off Gas Buddy. But in Oroville, at the Berry Creek Rancheria RV Park, it's $3.05. So if you're up there in Oroville, it's 14 cents a gallon cheaper at the Berry Creek Rancheria RV Park. Now, I don't know whether that's that place right out of Orville. I used to go up there and pick a lady up to drive her to church, and there was a big gas station, and it's a part of that casino operation up there. And the casinos get cheaper gas. They don't, because they're a sovereign nation, right? They're a nation within a nation. So they can charge a lot less. They don't have to charge all the gas taxes. So if you're near a reservation, flee to the reservation and buy your gas, right? Maybe down there at Thunder Valley. I don't know whether Thunder Valley got a gas station down there or not. But in Irving, Texas, at Buddy's gas station, it's $2.09. Check that out, at Buddy's. That's in Irving, Texas. And in Hagerman, Idaho, where my friends listen, the Fritzes, they left Marysville because of the high taxes in this area. They were some Tea Party people, so we lost some of our Tea Party people, and they went up there and moved into Hagerman, got themselves a nice house up there. And they said, the gas buddies said, you can buy gas up around there for $2.97. But in Arizona, you can get it for $2.39, Casa Grande. So you can go on to gasbuddies.com if you're running around the United States, and you can find out where your cheap gas is. But it just goes to show what screwed up politics. We got more oil in the ground in California than they do in the Middle East. Do you know that? You don't even believe me, do you? Well, go check it out for yourself. The reason we're not pumping it was because of these idiots down here in Sacramento that are forbidding it. In fact, they fight Trump. They fight everybody. In fact, guys like the mayor, Ricky the Scamayoa, over here at Marysville, he doesn't even want you to allow trains to come through Marysville that are moving oil. How are you going to use fossil fuel if you don't bring it into the state, because they won't let you pump it out of the ground around here anymore? They won't even let you go out in the ocean and pump it. So what happens? South Dakota, North Dakota, right? They're pumping it in Texas. They're pumping it in Alaska, out in the refuge areas all over the place, and everybody is being blessed except in California. What a ripoff, eh? So I was just wondering the other day, I was thinking, when's the, they fired Comey, right? Remember when they fired Comey? And the Democrats hated Comey until they loved him. Until the Republicans fired him. They hated him. They said, we need to fire Comey. He's a liar. He's harassing Hillary. He's this, he's that. Then they loved Comey because the Republicans fired him. I thought, I wonder who else fired you. Can you think of the last time we fired a FBI guy? That would be Billy Clinton, right? And he fired a guy, and I thought, I wonder why he fired him. So I looked it up. He fired William Sessions. He was the FBI director for two different presidents, under Reagan, and then under Bush, and then Clinton came in, and some of the write-up, if it's true, said they questioned some of his spending and some of his ethics, the FBI director. Same problem we got today with Comey. So Clinton fired him. Nobody even raised a fuss about that. He just said, they just fired him. They thought he got fired. It's just like you go to the store and the checker said, where's Joe? They said, he got fired. Oh, who's the checker today? Susie. Okay, here's my money. And you just move on. You move on with life, right? So they just, Democrats just moved on with life. Mr. Clinton came in, became president, fired William Sessions, hired somebody else. But here's the interesting thing. The next day after William Sessions was fired, the counsel for the White House, Vince Foster, he shot himself twice in the back of the head. I don't know whether anybody else has performed that in modern times, taking a gun and not shooting yourself once, but shooting yourself once and then think, oh, that wasn't good enough, and then bang, you had to shoot yourself again to say, oh, that took care of it right there. So he shot himself twice in the back of the head over there in Park. And so what, people say, oh, there's a big conspiracy. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I just think it's unusual. Even if he hadn't fired the FBI director and the president of the United States chief counsel shot himself twice in the back of the head. I think, well, that's kind of fascinating. Maybe you could make a movie about something like that. And the other thing I thought was fascinating was that when Bill Clinton paid off Paula Jones, what did he pay her, $600,000 or $800,000? Nobody raided his house and looked at all his records. But a porn star says that she had relations with the current president. Nobody even questioned whether, Clinton was banging every trailer park trash there was, plus people up in the White House. Nobody questioned whether he actually did it. And these gals were saying stuff. They wouldn't even put them on the air to talk on the TV. But we got special interviews on, was that 60 Minutes? They interviewed her, this latest lady, this former porn star or whatever. But they never raided Clinton's house. In fact, they won't even raid Clinton's house now with emails and stuff. But it's interesting that this 19-year-old psychopath can go down there and murder all kinds of people down in Florida, and had the police called on him time and time and time and time and time, and how many, 50, 60 times, and they don't ever raid his house. They don't do jack about him. He goes in and murders all these kids and adults. Nobody. It's just amazing. The FBI I used to have a high level of respect for the FBI, but honestly, those people are about the bunch of goofiest people I've ever met. I mean, we got the top, even this Brennan, he's like a type of guy. He's a former CIA guy. He ought to go on something like Jerry Springer. He's like he's done. He's over. We fired him. He's gone. Why is he running around town making a big deal about Trump all the time? Whoa, it's like a Jerry Springer thing. You would think they would have raided Hillary's house to find 33,000 emails, but they're chasing down Trump's personal attorney. They'll probably put him in prison. What do you think? We'll be right back.
Creative Light Theater's Radio City Presents Job is a dinner theater coming May 20th through 25th. It's 1939, and radio is America's premier source of entertainment. Rodney Havershak hosts a nightly show retelling historic events, dramatized for the listener's imagination. Actors from all over Hollywood are invited to showcase their talents in retelling these stories. Harry Flowers, an Oscar-winning leading man, has been hired to play Job. His own fairy tale life seems to unravel before our very eyes as life imitates art in this hour-long recap of what happened to Job. With music and zany sound effects, this tragedy can't help but tickle the funny bone of our studio audience. Don't miss Radio City Presents Job at the beautiful Embassy Theater located at Highway 99 and Eager Road in Yuba City. Tickets are $22 each, or $200 for a table of 10. Call the Church of Glad Tidings for tickets and more information. 671-3160.
All right. Well, we had some of our representatives back in Washington, D.C. paying out some of those taxes they collected from you to just go have a big old good time back. Wouldn't you like to go to Washington, D.C., take your kids back there, take your kids back to the famous places, see the memorable, historic monuments, et cetera, et cetera? Wouldn't you like to do that? You think you'll ever be able to go back there? You think you could afford it? Well, by God, our city council people, supervisors, and, city employees fly back on your tax dollar. Isn't that amazing? And they spend that money. I was talking to, the woman's friend. They moved into that place on Live Oak Boulevard out of Marysville, a very nice building. But when they got in there, because the government of California tries to run pro-life pregnancy resource centers out of business, they make them measure up to like a hospital standard. So they had to put in all new air conditioning and special types of rules in that building. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of changes that didn't need to, all they're doing is talking to women. And so they made them put in all these changes. So I was talking to my friend Ted Holmes, who's donating his time over there, and they're making all these people to jump through all these hoops. They're serving women right? It's a nonprofit, and they want to get all these fees from them, and then every person that's donating time there that's a contractor, they have to make sure that they have a business license in the city. They have to go by business license. So Gary Underhill, who works out of Sacramento but donating his time, they say, oh, well, that person has to have a business. Oh, that person has, and just screwing them around over there. And then they turn around and fly back to Washington, D.C. and just spend that money, $6,000 apiece, like nothing. Just ripping people off. Just makes me sick. And same thing with the county of Yuba. And I'm going to talk more about the tax situation over there. But first of all, I want to talk about what Randy Thomason was just talking about, the propagandizing and the forcing of you to accept perverted sexual behavior, the teaching of the public government schools on your kids. And a lot of you just let it happen. You just will not do anything about it. Now, he mentioned a day coming up on Friday, April 27th, that they're going to make a big deal about everybody believing and forcing this down everybody's throat that transsexuals and all kinds of weird sexuality is all normal, and everybody's got to shut their mouth about it. So I was sent this memo put out by the Orange County Board of Education. Now, I used to sit on the Yuba County Board of Education. There's 58 of those boards in California, and I used to run into some of those people at conferences. Orange County Board of Education, from the general counsel for that board. And he was asked this question. He says, members of the board have asked several questions about the California Healthy Youth Act. Don't you think that's a great name? California Healthy Youth. Now, I would think you'd tell them how to eat right, eat your vegetables, eat a lot of fruits, don't drink soda, don't use drugs, right? But it has nothing to do with that. What this has to do with is sexual behavior, right? And so they wanted an opinion in detail on the legal issues involved. Now, why would there be legal issues on just having kids be healthy? Well, because they're creating a dogma, a propaganda that they're shoving down kids' throat. And your kids, if you're in a public school, they have to go to school, right? Now, you can choose to pull them out, but then you have to pay for them to go to a private school. Because if it's a public school, a government school, they have to follow these laws. Now, the reason we have these laws is we have perverts down there in the Capitol that believe they're not happy with just having sex with same-sex people, same gender, or having multiple sex, or letting people change their plumbing so they can, even though they're a male, they want to behave like a female, right? So, but they're not happy with just going ahead and doing that, which you can do that in the United States, you know. But they want us to say, we love you, and we think you're just as normal as normal. Now, I'm getting my science from right out in front of my house. Dogs run around, they have sex, cats, and I notice that no males are having sex with other males. And somehow them cats and dogs, they figure out which ones to have sex with. And nobody's doing any teaching. I don't see any classes under the tree where one cat's smarter than the others and he's busting out a little laptop and he's teaching them how to have sex and how to put on a condom or not put on a condom, right? Or what an STI is or an STD. But now our schools are the crappiest in the nation. We're dragging our butts at the bottom of the nation. Our kids can't read, they can't do math, they can't do this, they can't do that. But they know how to put on a condom, by God. And also, they know all about homosexuality, transsexuality, bestiality, the whole deal. Now, so here's what the General Counsel, Ron Winkert, said to the Board of Education of Orange County. He says Education Code 51938 allows a parent or guardian to excuse their child from all or part of comprehensive sexual health and HIV education, right? That's like how to have sex, about STDs, STIs, or HIV, right? However means that first part doesn't count. However, he gives another code. This other code states that section, the one I just read, and the chapter entitled California Healthy Youth Act does not apply to instruction, materials, or programming that discusses gender. That would be out there in Olivehurst and Linda. That'd be what your flavor is. Are you female or male? Gender identity, right? Either you're a female, or you're a female thinking you're a male, or you're a male thinking you're female, or maybe you think you ought to have sex with a dog, right? That would be gender identity. Gender expression, sexual orientation. That means if you feel like you're a guy, you got the guy plumbing, but you feel like you get up on Saturday morning, you feel like you need to put on a dress. In fact, the other day, they found a dead body in the river. And at first, they thought she's a female. And then, so they said, we found a female in the river. Then they had to say, uh-oh. It was a male dressed like a female floating around in the river. That's a bad sign right there. So sexual orientation, discrimination, harassment, bullying, intimidation, relationships, and family, and does not discuss human reproductive organs and their function. In other words, short, if they talk about anything other than reproducing or HIV, you can't pull your kids out of school. They're locked in there. Did you hear what I said? Now, some of you are just so passive and you're so doped up out there, you would let your kids be incarcerated and you don't give a rip about it. You wouldn't do jack. If your kids ever having sex with your kids, you wouldn't do jack about it. You got your life on pause. You got your brain on pause. You got your brain pickled. You're more concerned about a glass of wine at 6 o'clock than you are about your kid telling them that maybe they ought to try transsexuality. So at the bottom it says, therefore. That's after you read all that stuff and you're confused. Then it says, therefore. Parents who disagree with the instructional materials related to gender, gender identity, gender expressions, and sexual orientation may not excuse their children from this instruction. Now, this is amazing. He says, however, parents, this is an amazing, I want you to just think about what this statement says. However, I want you to think about who owns your kids. Who do you think owns your kids? You think you do? You sure you do? Or do you think the government owns your kids? Because listen to how this is written. This is the last sentence. However, parents are free, or in other words, they're given parents permission to do this. Parents are free to advise their children that they disagree with some or all of the information presented in the instructional program and express their views on these subjects to their children. That could easily have said, you cannot. Not only can you not take your kids out of school, you cannot tell your kids what they're telling your kids is wrong. You get that? That's what they're saying. Can you believe this? This is unbelievable. They're saying, they're giving you permission on what you can and cannot tell your kids outside of school. They're saying not only are we going to fill them full of crap in school, that they're giving you permission to say, well, we don't know whether you ought to pay attention to that. But they could just as easily have said, you can't tell them anything different or we're going to take your kids away. This is amazing. If you can't think this through, you better get off the weed. Even turn in your medical 215 card. Because obviously you don't deserve to raise these kids because you're going to answer to God for it in the end. When I read this, I thought, oh my goodness. Parents, they actually are giving you permission to sidestep what your teachers are saying. They shouldn't even have to go there, right? They're saying you're having to have an attorney advise you on what you can and can't tell your kids outside of school. Now, here's what I would do if I had kids in the public school today. I wouldn't even ask them permission to opt out. I'd say, kids, we're going up to Bridgeport on Friday, and we're just going to have a big old fun day with the fam. Right? I'd even take a day off work and just say, we're going here, or we're going there, or we're going over to Tahoe, or we're going to Reno, or we're going to the ocean, and just say, we're just going to pass entirely on this day. And I'd say, screw you, school. I wouldn't even call in, say, Johnny's sick, Johnny's taking a pass. I wouldn't even give him the courtesy of a call. I just wouldn't show. That's what Randy Thomason was talking about at the break. Man, I tell you, this is like a blockbuster statement. It's a blockbuster statement. I'm totally amazed. So that's April 27th. This school system, they cannot figure out how to teach your kids anymore how to read. Do you know, I was reading this Thomas Sowell book. He wrote it years ago. I bought it, and I never read it. But I kept thinking, I'm going to get rid of this book because I never read. I'm going to give it to somebody else. And I kept thinking, I can't give it away. I can't give it away. So I thought, maybe I'm supposed to read it. So the title is Race and Culture. So I went, instead of reading from front to back like I normally do, I read it just like you're supposed to. I jumped back, and I wanted to read the chapter on slavery. And do you know, I was so amazed. He is such a bright guy. In 1850, right at the time of the Emancipation, did you know that basically slaves were literate? How did they learn how to read? They could not go to public schools. They've forbidden, those parents or people, the adults in their lives, were teaching those children how to read. They could not go to public schools. They didn't want to educate slaves because if they got smart, they'd figure out how to hit the road, Jack, and escape to freedom. In fact, they kept them disoriented, and they would take them to places that they weren't familiar with, so they would be afraid to run because they might die out there, right? But I was fascinated that basically black children, were literate. And I thought, they're not literate today. Our kids are not literate today in our public school, and we're spending like $15,000, $20,000 a head for these stupid schools in California. I heard this unbelievable ad. This ad's been playing on all the stations talking about the Coach or the Koch brothers, what do you want to call them, the millionaire, billionaire brothers. And it's talking about these charter schools, and it's talking about don't let the Koch brothers and all these corporate charter schools take money from our kids in our public education system. They're not accountable for the money. I thought accountability. Nobody's accountable in our public education system. Nobody's holding anybody accountable. Teachers, they get paid whether the kids fail or not. Nobody's basing anything on outcomes. And taking money, what the issue, those teachers, the teachers' unions are just liars. They can't compete straight up with anybody. So they lie, right? They blame it on the parents. Well, your kid's just stupid. Well, you're stupid. Well, it's all the parents' fault, right? If the kids came here ready to go, right, they'd be, well, honestly, we do everything for the kids now anyway. We feed them lunch. We feed them breakfast, right? We do everything for them. It's just excuses, 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 right? And so they make these incredible commercials like somehow these charter schools, they never say the performance of the charter schools, but when they do, they even say the charter schools are crappy. They just take your money and they're not held accountable. Honestly, people, who the folks that would be the greatest accountability board, it would be your parents, right? If my kids weren't thriving at a school, if I love my kids, I would remove them. If I sent my kids to school and the school started talking to them about weird sexual behavior, I would remove my kids from the school. I wouldn't say, can't you please not say that? Or can't you let him go to a class and just stare at the wall? No, I'd say, hey, F you people. I'm going to remove my kid. Take your transsexuality. Take your weirdness, right? If you want to be weird, just have weird classes, right? I would just remove my kids. Why don't you remove your kids? Why don't everybody just remove their kids and the school will go broke, right? Because they get money because your kids' butts are in the seat. It doesn't matter whether they learn a thing. They get money based upon a breathing person sitting in a little seat for 8 hours. Honestly, people, the same thing that's going on with this sanctuary state, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, is the same thing we ought to do right now. The city of Yuba City just took a stand the other day, said we're not going to buy into this sanctuary state thing. San Diego, County of San Diego, just county board down there, just took a stand. Different cities are taking stands. At some point, you have to say, we're not going to have that in our school. If you want to sue the school district or something, state, federal government, then do that, right? It's unbelievable. Then next month, not only April is accept everybody doing everything weird day, right? Then April, we got Harvey Milk Day. And we got the pedophile. We got what is it, the May 21st, 22nd? It's just like every month. Like, let's honor a weirdo, right? Let's honor a weirdo in our public school system. It's crazy. Well, there you have that. So, all right. Where was I anyway before I got sidetracked on that deal? I wanted to talk about it anyway, so I'm so sick of it. The school system, honestly, people, you need to take this, your education of your kids in your hands. Listen, I think any parent with just a little bit of coaching could teach their kid how to read. The fact that the school system cannot teach a kid how to read. I remember going out, I had a guy that was a ex-con that I tried to coach or tried to counsel, and I didn't do such a good job because he liked to beat everybody up is the problem. And his mom was a heroin addict, and he never had any pops in his life. So he was just an angry guy. But he kind of, once he got a lot of prison under his belt, he came out and become an expert welder, and then he was raising stepkids. And he said, Lou, I need you to counsel my son. I thought, why do I counsel your son? I failed on you, dude. Why are we going to fail again? He said, well, he's out here at, I think it was Yuba Gardens or Oliver School, one of the two. And he says he got busted for marijuana. He had marijuana on campus. And I said, oh, okay. So I went out and met with him. I went out and got a taco at the Cinco de Mayo, one of the best taco places out there on Olivehurst Avenue. And I went out there and got a taco at Cinco de Mayo. And we were sitting out there. And I said, James, what's going on with you, dude? He said, he was making all excuses about the marijuana. I said, forget marijuana, dude. Just tell me how you're doing in school. He said, I can't read. He said, they got me in special ed. I said, why did you? I said, you're sharp as can be. You're talking to me right here across from this taco. I said, what's the problem? He said, I just got behind, and his mom had been an addict, right? The kids got behind. His brother was sharp as a tack, but James, he couldn't read. So I went in there to talk to the assistant principal. And I said, came in to talk about James. And instead of talking about his education, he said, yeah, we caught him with marijuana. I said, I don't care about marijuana. I said, why can't that boy read? Well, he got caught up in all these kids, he got caught up with the wrong crowd or whatever. And I said, well, you got him in a special ed class. He's never going to learn to read. Why don't you stay after and help him? So anyway, he got caught. He didn't have time for me, so I ended up talking to the principal. She said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm on the Yuba County Board of Education. I'm trying to help James. He doesn't know how to read. I said, can't you have one of these teachers? I said, I'll get a Yuba College student to come and tutor him after school. She said, the union won't let you. You have to have a paid teacher. If we're going to have anybody after school, the teacher's got to stay, and you got to pay him extra. And I said, well, then why don't the teacher stay? She said, Lou, you can hear the rubber burning out of that parking lot at the time the school bell rings. They're out of here as fast as they can. I couldn't find anybody in the dang school system at Marysville Joint Unified that cared a whit about this kid. You know what they cared about? The kid had a little marijuana in the pot. I said, screw the marijuana. He wouldn't have any interest in marijuana if he was having a good experience at your stinking school that he hated. Had to go there. They forced him to, or they'd arrest him, right? Think of that. That's worse than going to prison. Going to school and watching some nag talk at you all day, and you're behind. You can't understand what she's saying because you missed last year's stuff, and they can't do you any solid. You know something? If that was a private school and they were getting paid money, and they could lose their job if they didn't get James squared away, they'd have taught that sucker to read and kicked him right out into the next class. But that's the public education for you. We're going to come right back for another 2 hours. Hang around. All right. I want to talk to you a bit about the federal versus the state government without getting into too esoteric, too complicated, but just in general, layman's talk, because I'm no attorney and haven't studied a ton about it anyway, about the Constitution in this fact, in this way, or in this this application. But let me just, I want you to think about the fight over slavery, and that the fact that there were states that wanted to secede from the Union because of a number of issues. They disagreed with the North. South disagreed with the North. They said, we're out of here. So they said, you're not out of here. And in fact, it just didn't happen over slavery. It happened a number of times where the federal government had to step in and say, this is how it's going to be. And so different states decided, as they formed, to join with other states to become a thing called United States. In other words, instead of just individual states, everybody on their own, they decided to join and have a constitution over all of them to be United States. And so they had a constitution, and the constitution said this is what said many things, but it said this is what the federal government will do, right? And whatever it says the federal government will do, that it shall do, and then that will take precedence. That's what the federal government's job is. And everything else that is not addressed here becomes the states' area to decide, right? So some issues, one state will say, we like it red. Other states says, we like it green. We like it yellow. No big deal. The feds don't have a call on it, and so that's that. So Tom McClintock, congressman who serves just south of us here in the El Dorado County and other areas, but primarily I think of him as El Dorado County, he wrote an article. You might be able to look it up on the internet. You want to read the whole thing. It's about 1 page long, called The Sanctuary Movement and the Doctrine of Nullification. The Doctrine of Nullification says it's the assertion or the suggestion that any state government which doesn't like a federal law is free to violate it. So if a state government, no matter what the law is at the federal level, if they don't like it, states are sovereign, so they can just say, screw you. The fact is they can't do that. They can't be a part of the United States of America and do that on every single law. So he says it began with the early disputes over what they call the Alien and Sedition Acts and federal tariffs. We've been talking about tariffs, taxes, and formed the central legal argument of the Southern Confederacy that they used in an attempt to tear the federal union. In other words, they said, we don't like the way you're going about this slavery issue and tariff issues and business. We're out of here. And so he says it ignores the thing called the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution and the powers of Congress. And so he gives some examples of it, which I'm not going to go into, but basically the idea is if there is a duty that is prescribed for the federal government to take care of, then the federal government has the supremacy or the top decision-making power in that situation. And if it isn't mentioned, then the states make the call. So he says California secessionists, people that want to pull out of California, assert that the 10th Amendment is the reason they can do that. But he said they don't understand what they're talking about. He said the 10th Amendment reserves to the states powers not delegated to Congress. So jurisdiction over immigration law is explicitly reserved to Congress and denied to the states. It's spoken, this is Congress's job. This is a federal job, and it is not the state's job. Does that make sense to you? Because the borders of the United States affect all kinds of states, right? They don't affect every state, but they affect all kinds of border states. So the Supremacy Clause is equally clear that the laws made within the constitutional authority of the federal government are the supreme laws of the land. That's the federal authority. That's why, in other words, we surrender certain jobs to the federal government to be a part of the United States as opposed to being a separate thing. Like Hawaii could just, like they were out there on their own for years. Alaska was up there on their own for years, doing their own thing, right? And then they wanted to join, or they wanted to unite with the United States. So McClintock says there's a good reason for immigration law to be in federal hands. As the Attorney General explained in Sacramento, if our immigration laws are not to be enforced, our national borders mean precisely nothing. In other words, if you don't enforce immigration laws, you don't have a nation, because you don't have a change when there's no such thing as a border between Mexico and the United States, right? So the open borders advocated by California officials are suicidal for the nation itself, and that's true. But when you listen to the La Raza clan down in Sacramento, they talk about, oh, they do a lot of double speak. So So he says let me just see here. I want to read a couple things to you. He said the new Confederates claim, that's California leaders, claim that they are not defying federal law, but just refusing to use state resources to enforce it. Now that's doublespeak right there, right? You're not defying federal law, but you're not going to cooperate with it. So federal law, he says, is crystal clear. Federal law, this is a quote, or a local government entity or official may not prohibit. Let me say it again. A federal, state, or local government entity or official may not prohibit or in any way restrict any government entity or official from sending to or receiving from the Immigration or Naturalization Service information regarding the citizenship or immigration status, lawful or unlawful of any. In other words, you can't mess with it, right? You got to cooperate. Yet this is precisely what Californians are doing. The Nullification Act, basically the sanctuary state or sanctuary cities are California nullification decisions. In other words, they nullify what the federal people are responsible to do, which is protect the borders of the United States of America and keep people out of here that do not belong here. It's not anti-immigration, it's anti-illegals, right? So there's all kinds of people. My folks, my grandparents, great-great-grandparents came here in the 1800s, came first to the Midwest, then they made it over to California during about the 1850s. So all kinds of people. I talked to a guy, I had lunch with a guy this week who's from German descent, and he came here when he was a child. He's probably about 50, came here when he was a child, and he said, Lou, my uncle, my parents immigrated, and my uncle immigrated, and he got drunk one night, and he socked his lady. Maybe, I don't know if it was his wife or just his girlfriend. And they arrested him, and then they deported him to Germany. It was over. Boom. He committed a crime. He was an immigrant. He hadn't become a citizen. So they thought, hey, you can't do that when you're not a citizen. You can't get away with that and stay here. So they evicted him back to Germany. That's the way it works. So what Tom McClintock, Congressman Tom McClintock is saying, this is precisely what California Nullification Acts do. They go even further by threatening private citizens with criminal prosecution for merely volunteering information to federal authorities. Now, Xavier Becerra, who's a part of the La Raza group, he's Attorney General of the state of California, has threatened individuals and businesses who become aware that a person is here illegally and contacts Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He said, you cannot do that. In other words, they control you. It's the same spirit that the school system in the state of California is now taking claim and owning your children, and they will or they won't give you permission to educate your children. In other words, you will tell them at home whatever they want you to tell them at home. You get it? That's what that Orange County lawyer said to the Board of Education, involving homosexuality, bisexuality, gay and lesbian stuff, transsexuality, bestiality, whatever. They will tell you how you're going to instruct your kids at home, and they will tell you what they're going to tell your kids at school, whether or not you like it. That's what they're saying. And so now the state government of California, which is totally turned out to be a rebellious rogue dictatorship, they are threatening citizens, and I'm not interpreting this. You can look it up, Google it. Becerra said he will arrest citizens and business people that cooperate. It's not just law enforcement not cooperating or the state of California not cooperating, the state employees, it's citizens. So if you think you were free, you know the founding fathers talked about freedom, talked about liberty. If you think you are in California and you have some freedom, you better take inventory, because you don't have freedom involving the education of your kids. That is out. And you don't have freedom involving, if there are illegals on your block and you turn them into Immigration and Customs Enforcement, you can get arrested. Is that odd or what? So California officials argue that they are simply trying to preserve the trust of the illegal immigrant community. Now we've got to incorporate people that have violated the law to come here. And so they are preserving the trust of illegals. Like that's what Mayor Schaaf said in Oakland. Well, we just want to make sure that we want our illegals in the city of Oakland to feel comfortable to come to the police if they want to report a crime, so they won't feel that they're going to get arrested if they ask, well, who are you? And can I see your identification? Da-da-da-da-da, right? Now, that is baloney. So so he asked this question, McClintock. Does that mean, he says, that anyone who reports a crime or talks to a police officer should be immune from arrest for crimes that they may have committed? So what if somebody, an illegal, wants to turn somebody in like he stole my dope? Right, that happens every once in a while. Some dope head will come into the police department and said, Johnny stole my narcotics. Go get him, right? So if that person has committed a crime, then that nullifies that crime, right? Because they're a good guy. The Constitution, McClintock says, commands the executive to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Do you know what the executive means? That's the President of the United States. The President doesn't create the laws. You remember how Obama just waved his wand and created that DACA law for kids? Totally unconstitutional. He doesn't have the right to do that. What he has the right to do and the responsibility to do is to execute, carry out the laws that the Congress makes. That's all he does. So the Constitution commands that the executive or the executive branch of government, the president and law enforcement, the attorney general, all those people, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. That means all laws, including the immigration laws at the federal level. So that's what's going on. Now, last week or the week before, the city of Yuba City, the city council, took a vote, and I'm proud of them for doing that. And they just went out and did it. And I don't know whether anybody was talking to them about it or pushing them to do it, but they did it. They just said, we are going to encourage our law enforcement, which meant the city of Yuba City's police department, to fully cooperate with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement people, ICE, right? And so I hope, you know something, we just think, you know what, we need to get over this in our country today. We just think we can be passive and everything's going to turn out all right. It doesn't work like that in any other area of your life. Why don't you get a diagnosis of cancer and decide to just go home and eat chocolate cookies and drink a soda? That ain't going to work. You better think about getting some treatment or getting an operation or doing something different in your life. Or whatever area of life that you take a passive approach, you're going to be in trouble. You need to take responsibility for your life. At some point, you know, I get a kick out of it. These people that are running for office, I love to listen to them talk. They're just full of baloney. They say, yeah, I feel because I've been a businessman, I'm this, I'm that, I've done this, I got a master's degree, I got a bachelor's degree, I've done this, I've done that, I've been in the military. I'm a leader. I can lead this country. I can lead this city. I can lead. They don't know jack crap about leading. They get in these positions. Well, how about taking a stand on this sanctuary state thing? Oh, well, you know, I don't think we should do it. You know, I don't know. Jerry Brown, you know, he could cause us a lot of problems. How about the city doing something? Oh, well, you know, I don't know. We're asking them for some money, and I don't know if they we really need this money to plant flowers in front of City Hall or build a new septic system or something. And, if we do that, then they're probably not going to do this. You know something? The local officials take our money, fly back to Washington, D.C., spend $6,000 apiece, and are pretty much impotent, right? They're firing blanks over there. That's what they're doing. They're basically firing intellectual blanks. And probably we could just run some monkeys over there and fill those spots. and probably just say raise their hand if you think about this. No, we teach the monkeys to raise their hand or not, and they would raise their hand to vote and pass certain things. A lot of the people, honestly, they have no idea what they're even voting on, and some of them don't even read the packets and get briefed, or they just do whatever the county staff or city staff says to do. They're just puppets. They're just mouthpieces, right? They're little prostitutes for the staffs of the county and the city, and that's who's running the government. Instead of you electing somebody to represent you, you end up with a bureaucrat that's making all the decisions. So you would think, what would happen if 100 or 200 cities in California, including counties, 58 counties, right? If they all just said, no, well, we're supporting the police. And if you down there want to tell the CHP, which is a state organization, you want to tell the CHP they can't cooperate, I guess you can do that, Jerry and Xavier. But up here in Shasta County, Yuba County, Butte County, Nevada County, we love our sheriff, and we're going to back our law enforcement, and we're going to say, you arrest a bad guy, the dude is illegal, first thing we want you to do is call up ICE and just say, we got Freddie, or we got Jose, right? Or we got Victor from the Soviet Union or whatever, whoever. We got him. And we're backing our law enforcement. And we're not going to play these stupid games like Democrats want to play. So you can read all about it, I'm sure, if you Google Tom McClintock's Sanctuary Movement article. You will get a clue. It's the doctrine of nullification. And that is a bunch of baloney when it comes to immigration. Now, when it comes to other areas, then we got a debate going on. But when it comes to immigration, what the La Raza leaders in Sacramento are doing is picking and choosing what they want to obey. They said, yeah, we want to go to the buffet, but we only want to eat certain things off that buffet. The rest of it we don't really like. So that's how that kind of works. So 3 minutes here. I want to talk to you a little bit about Facebook. Did you see any of the Facebook stuff on TV when they interviewed Zuckerberg? They interviewed him for hours. I found it fascinating, but I just couldn't. They interviewed him maybe for 10 or 15 or 20 hours, I think. It was unbelievable. I'd never heard him really talk before, so I was fascinated by listening to him talk and see, because I know he's a liar and a cheat, because I have a friend that knows the guy who actually came up with the original idea for Facebook, and Zuckerberg stole it from him. Yeah. And they fought it out in court, but Zuckerberg had too much clout with the judges at that point. Facebook had already started, so they paid off the judges. And this isn't a conspiracy theory. The guys had the whole, they had the whole, what do they call it, the platform or the mechanism to make the whole thing work, right? And Zuck stole it. Is Zuck smart? Yeah, so he keeps portraying himself like he stumbled across it after smoking weed in his Harvard class dorm room. Anyway, I don't know what you thought, like, hey, I'm all, because I saw some of my friends I'm on Facebook that I've gone to church with. Oh, they stole, they're using our private information, Zuckerberg. They're wrong. They're doing this. They're doing that. I thought, so what? It's like, so what they're doing that? It's like, so anyway, I was, one of my favorite gals is Chris Ann Hall, right? She's a constitutional expert, right? She goes all over the country. She used to work for the state attorney general in Florida, and then they canned her because she kept saying they were doing illegal stuff, and she was teaching them the Constitution for Tea Party groups, and they said, hey, you either got to get away with that Constitution or get out of here. So she prayed about it with her husband, and they got out of there, and now she does full-time work. So you can go check her out. You should subscribe to her, and you could educate yourself. Go to Chris Ann Hall, KrisAnnehall, Chris, KrisAnneh Hall.com. But I'm going to tell you, she did this very short, less than probably 125 words on the issue down there on Facebook, and I thought, it just cleared the air for me intellectually. So you might have got involved in this, and you may get some people are quitting Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And I say, hey, it's fine. It's a private business. If I go into a restaurant, they don't treat me right, the food's crappy, I don't make a big deal about it. I just don't go back there, right? It's a private enterprise. But do you think, did you see all those Botox babes and guys that are on dope and everything, those old timers? Some of those people can't even spell Facebook. They're so old, they can't, the questions they asked, that obviously they didn't know those questions. They got some little geeks writing those questions for them, and they just read them. They didn't know. That guy, honestly, they were stupid up there, those senators and stuff. They were a joke, throwing, just huffing and puffing. We'll be right back. I'm going to read you what Chris Ann says about Facebook. All right, welcome back. This is The Patriot, and you're listening to KMYC 1410 AM. This is Lou Benninger. You're listening to Live with Lou, and we are pre-recording the show on a Friday night. Or let's see, what night is it? Not even Friday night. It's Thursday night. Thursday night for Saturday. Oh, I guess it's the 21st. So I think earlier I said you're going to be listening to this on the 20th. So my bad. I can't keep my days straight. So we're glad you're listening. It's a live show, so you're not going to be able to call in and chat with us today because we're gone, and you could leave a message if you want to do a that a boy or not so hot, whichever way is cool with me. But we'll be back next week alive. We'll be live. You're going to be here next Saturday, so will I. So we were listening to Senator Ted Cruz from the state of Texas interviewing Mark Zuckerberg as everybody and his brother. It's like almost the full Senate was in there interviewing him, one after another, after another, after another, after another. Man, that guy just sat there. And first of all, way to go, Mark Zuckerberg, for building a big business, right? Successful, right? Totally innovative, amazing, created this. Like I said before the break, I believe that he stole the idea, but he won in court. Courts aren't always correct, but he beat the people that, I have a friend who's a friend of them. They were Christian techies, and he ripped them off, according to them. But he won in court. And he built this thing in just, I think, about 14 years. I think it started in 2004 or something like that. And so this thing is billions and billions of people throughout. I mean, my friends in Vietnam, all over the world, we're connected across the world, communicating on Facebook. So the question is, I want to just show you how socialist you are, because I bet a lot of you are listening and say, yeah, get him. We need to have government regulation, and we need to have control of Facebook, and we need to have more rules, and we need to have them to pay up a lot of money, and they shouldn't have taken all our information if they sold our content or sold our something they knew about us. Well, for instance, if I go on a website, I went on a website, my slippers are wearing out, right? So my friends buy me these slippers, but I wore them out. So I've been looking at them, but they're really expensive. They're on like Land's End or LL Bean or something like that. So all of a sudden, their ads show up on Facebook. And every time I go on Facebook, they're saying, do you want to buy them today? 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 Facebook is totally connected with all these providers, right? And they're buying ads, and they know how to get to me. They know that I went on there. I didn't tell them it was me. They took my IP address off when I went to look at those shoes. I never even talked to nobody. I just went on there and said, oh, I was looking for some on sale. And then all of a sudden now, every time I go on the internet, man, those shoes are right in front of me. Isn't that true? Same with you. So obviously all this is connected, right? So how bad do you believe in private enterprise, in free enterprise? This is how bad the government is just involved in everything. They think, oh, we don't want government involved in the bedroom. We want to be able to screw a donkey or whatever. Stay out of our bedrooms. Stay out of our vagina. Stay out of this. Stay out of that, right? Right? That's how those feminists say. Stay out of this. I'm for abortion. Let me abort. I want to kill all the kids I can. damn it. And how much government do you want in your life? Some of this, I'm for the other side. It's just like, I don't want government telling me in my business what to do. In fact, I want them out of my business, right? I don't want to, oh, you can't do business in Yuba City because you didn't come down and pay us money. They extort money. They call it a business license. They extort money. What are they giving me for that license? They're giving me a two-bit bureaucrat making $150,000 a year to fly back to Washington, take Facebook shots and put it on there. It's like, that's what I'm paying for? Is that? What am I getting for? Well, I'm getting manipulation. I'm getting jacked around on codes and zoning and all this baloney. They say, oh, you want to do that? You have to pay us $6,000 and spend 6 months of your life because we have these people called planning commissioners, and they have to, and they are like ordained by God. They get downloads from God to determine where the best place to put a hardware store. Well, you go to hell. These stupid people. They're like ridiculous. Facebook is a private corporation. Congress has no business wasting public time and my tax dollars questioning Mark Zuckerberg. I don't care whether he's a communist, a liberal, a socialist. I don't care whether he's got discriminatory practices. Lou Benninger can end his Facebook page at any moment and obliterate that off my computer, right? My feeling is Zuckerberg, he's a liar. I was going to say he's a liberal and a liar. There are conservative liars. We have judges. We have attorneys. We have all kinds of conservative. I'm a conservative. You're a liar. They're liars. They're liars. People lie. That's why there's a 10 Commandments, like don't lie. We had to make a big deal about it once upon a time. People lie. So Zuckerberg lies. So my feeling is if they're going to lie and you don't like the service, end it, right? So Zuckerberg, here's what Chris Ann Hall says. Zuckerberg should have just owned up with who they are and say, yeah, we're a bunch of hardcore leftists. We will run our private business with a leftist ideology. We're not the government, so we don't need to make everybody feel equal or happy in our sandbox. If you don't like it, go to another business. I totally agree with that. I'm with Zuckerberg. What I didn't like about Zuckerberg is he's a liar. He's a little pussy that had to bend over and point his rear end up there and say, just shove it up there for me. It's worth it because I'm making billions of dollars off this. I'll give you some millions. I'll give you some millions. I'll give the government more money because, right, they're just little hookers is all they are. And I'll give you money. I'll give you some of it. Just leave me alone and let me have my little corner, right? That's all he's saying. They're just sissies is all they are. So Chris Ann Hall says this. I agree with her. The founding fathers would have screamed, leave Zuckerberg alone. Leave him alone. He's got a private business. If you hate him, don't do business with him. If you think he's taken if he's violating the agreement you made when you got on Facebook, then get off Facebook. Maybe somebody could start a butt book. Instead of Facebook, do a butt book, right? You could do whatever you want. You could start any kind of competitor you want and do something different. In fact, a lot of young people, I don't know whether you've noticed this, but just old farts are on Facebook anymore. Young people have moved on from Facebook for the most part. So here's what Chris Ann Hall says. There is no constitutional authority for that line of questioning of those people that are all full of alcohol, opiates, and Botox back there sitting on those benches and making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, spitting and sputtering, and they don't know jack what they're talking about. They can't even start their own computer up in the morning, those people. They're 150 years old. Think about it. There's no constitutional authority for them to even be fussing with. If your business was called back there and they were asking you, well, how do you bid your projects? Well, how much do you pay your people? Well, what do you eat for dinner at night? What do you do here? What do you do? How often do you have sex with your wife? Come on, man. They have no right to ask all that stuff. Number two, she says, we don't need more government intrusion in our private businesses. We need less. Why wouldn't you, if you're conservative, why wouldn't you say, leave the guy alone? We should all been behind liberal Zuckerberg and saying, will you leave him alone? He has a right to be as leftist as he wants. Leave him alone, right? If I don't like Facebook, I'll tell him that and tell him to shove Facebook up his backside. Number 3, we don't need more federal regulations. We need more liberty. Why don't you just read the Federalist Papers? Why don't you read the Constitution? Why don't you read the Founding Fathers? You have totally given over your lives to these communist, totalitarian nutcases, and they talk all about freedom. Honestly, it's all baloney. It's rhetoric. They, like the gal that we heard about taxes earlier, I appreciated that Cardi B going on there. She said, tell me what you're spending my money on, my effing money. Tell me, show me the receipts. I'd like to see the receipts of the Yuba City people that flew back to the Capitol Hill to see what they spent my tax money on. I think they should spread it right out across the die or the counter or whatever we want to call that thing they sit behind, and show us what they spent their money on and justified all the money they spent. Now, the other thing that Chris Ann Hall says, our politicians ought to stop using the unconstitutional line of questioning to make campaign sound bites. At least Ted Cruz wanted him to just be honest. Why wouldn't he just be honest and say, listen, I'm a liberal? Why didn't he just say that? I'm a liberal, dude. And obviously we jerked. Just like Lois Lerner would never admit they jerked around all these conservative churches, conservative organizations, Tea Party. She just wouldn't admit it. She's just a piece of crap. In the same way with Zuckerberg, they won't be honest. And so why wouldn't he just say, I'm a liberal. I loved Obama. I love Obama. And we took down those people because we wanted to slant the election. We wanted Trump to lose, and we did our very best. You know what Cruz would have said? That's your right. Cruz would have said, I got you. I just wanted you to say it, because instead of you saying that it's a neutral platform, honestly, a duck could figure out that that's not a neutral platform. I see people all the time, people that I'm hooked on Facebook with, I'm friends of. I don't even know them, but they want to be a friend with me for some reason. And they will say this, Facebook took down my post. They will say, Facebook took down my post. Facebook did this. Facebook did that. Obviously, it's not a neutral platform. If anybody could post anything besides, I'm going to kill you, like he said they took off terrorist stuff. Well, obviously, Silk and that other gal, what's that other gal's name? Diamond and Silk. Diamond and Silk never said anything threatening to anybody. I've watched them a little bit. They are annoying to me sometimes, but it's like, hey, if I want to watch them, that's freedom. If I want to watch them, I watch them. If I don't, I don't. It's the same thing, everything else, right? People have freedom. Why wouldn't Zuckerberg just say, we made some, we're a liberal organization, and we look for liberals to hire. You telling me that they are impartial in their hiring? That's such a crock of crap. Those liars, they just bull-faced liars. And for the Congress or the Senate to sit up there and accept that, at least Cruz had the integrity to go after him and say, dude, why don't you just tell me the truth? I'm a conservative, you're a liberal. Just tell me where you come. Where are you at? I can live with liberals. I don't have a problem with that. It's like, don't shovel crap over my face and tell me it's a hamburger. It's just, come on, man. So finally, Chris Ann Hall says, our conservative politicians ought to know better. And I say, man, do I agree with you. I don't have these liberals. I expect that from Dianne Feinstein and all these liberal people. Senator Leahy, who can hardly find he must have people walking on both sides of him to even get him up to the podium. That guy can't even talk. But to have conservative politicians start to want to regulate Facebook, I thought, you know something, these people need to get a new group, or I need to get a new group to call myself. I don't even consider myself a Republican, but certainly a conservative or a half libertarian. But honestly, this thing, a lot of you out there just bought right into that and got all steam because some information gleaning organization pulled stuff off Facebook. They figured out how to do that. Whether they did it underhandedly or bought the information, I don't really care. You know how many times your information's been stolen, like from Wells Fargo Bank or Bank of America or Target? or all these businesses that they got all your information. They know what you buy, what you like, what you don't like, how many times you use your credit card, right? What your waist size is. Come on, man. They're all these organizations are information harvesting, right? If you don't like it, get off the grid and go buy with cash, right? Get off the grid, barter or something. But to get all flared up, if I saw some, you know the name. I'm not going to mention them on the air, but they're good people. They used to go to the church. Now they moved out of the area, but they get all flared up. Well, I'm down to Facebook. They took all our information. They broke our trust. I say, if a person breaks my trust, I don't do business with them anymore. If a person steals, like I've had some businesses rip me off in this area, I don't do business with them anymore. It's like, hey, I learned, right? I learned all about it. So you can just move on. Eliminate Facebook. I think people say, oh, I'm going to go on a Facebook fast. Oh, come on. Don't you have a life? You can't live without Facebook? Jeez. I've been without a television. To even use the term television, does that sound really old to you? It sounds like ancient to me, like I'm going to go see a television and the pyramids, right? It's like ancient. I got rid of my television in 1987, but I feel that way with Facebook. They're just a bunch of old farts on there staying in touch. People wanting to have an 850-year reunion. Like mummies, we're going to jump start them, right, with some kind of methamphetamine to get them through the meeting so they don't have to go to bed at 6:30 at night, right? That's who's on Facebook. It's no teenagers anymore. They're gone. Okay. I think I beat that to death. Hey, did you see this Bob Moffett from the Capital Public Radio Group? I didn't even know about that group until I stumbled across this Bob Moffett, who is an award-winning writer, right? He didn't get an award like Obama did. He got elected president. Then they gave him the Peace Award. Wasn't it the Peace Award or some stupid thing? The guy can't even spell peace. Anyway, this Bob Moffett comes up and he files a Freedom of Information Act document with the Yuba City Unified School District and comes up with some of the documents on Jim Whiteaker. So if you're in one of these sister counties to Yuba County and Sutter County, we got a teacher over here in Sutter County that's been molesting women for 20 years, according to the women. I didn't know. I wasn't there. So you say, Lou, you shouldn't judge him because no court. I'm just telling you what the women are saying, right? I wasn't there. I didn't watch him have sex with women. I didn't watch him grab their breasts or grab their behind. This is what women are saying. I get a kick out of it. Somebody said the other day, oh, they're all in it for the money. They're not. No one's asking for any money right now. Oh, they're full of blown. Okay, one or two. What if just one came forward and the guy had been a real clean gene for years? That's one thing, but when about 20 of them come forward of all different ages, you think, oh, well, he needs to stay in court. Well, when you're hired by the district, they have a right to sever. They separate from you, and then you have a right of appeal. He's going to have his right of appeal before a slanted 3-member commission that's firmly slanted towards the union. So my hunch is that Jim Whiteaker, after messing around with girls for 20 years, according to the girls, the ladies, the women, the mothers, now some of them are mothers, he is probably going to get his job back, even if it's just sharpening pencils, if they still even have pencils, at the district. He may not get his physical education job back because it got too physical. That's the problem. He got too physical. So anyway, now we not only have school girls, now we have an employee who he dropped by her house uninvited and felt her up, according to the report from the school district. They didn't use the word feel her up, but they said touched her breast. He said, well, yeah, I went over there. I didn't initiate the hug. She did. She was having a hard time. I went over to cheer her up. So I went over to cheer her up and ended up touching her breast accidentally, right? Didn't do it on purpose. And then the I don't know whether Whiteaker said it or the public, the human resources guy said it. She had big breasts. So I don't know whether they had to do an examination on the woman and take a good look at her to see who is this gal and why would he be going over there and how did he bump into her breasts? If she had real small breasts, then it would be harder to bump into. But she had big breasts, and he just couldn't rub his hand up her side without they got in the way. He said, "Move your breast out of the way so I can rub my hand up your side back and forth a few times and get your breast over there so then I can do that. And there's nothing in the law that says I can't rub your ribs, but move your breast over. Will you just kind of lean to the left and get them to roll over there so we don't have a collision?" So they had a collision, and so that got written in the report. So it said she was big busted. We never learned her name, or people would want to do a drive-by and see how big busted she was, although it's been a number of years ago. So we got an hour to go yet. Come back if you want. Otherwise, go listen to somebody else. All right, so we were talking when we went to the break about Jim Whiteaker, and he's facing a couple court cases from young girls that they claim that he fondled them, grabbed them, and he's also facing a situation with Yuba City Unified School District, who worked for over 20 years. But this latest article by Bob Moffett with California Public Radio was fascinating because it has Whiteaker admitting to visiting the woman, an employee, not a child or a youngster, a woman, and visiting her at home, just showed up at her house. And he did so, it says, to comfort her during a difficult time. Now, I run this trauma intervention program, and so we go out on 911 calls when people are in the most difficult time of their life. So I appreciate Jim Whiteaker's desire to show some compassion to a lady. The fact that he showed one that had really big breasts, I thought maybe there was some ulterior motives, right? But in TIP, we train people where to touch a person. And we would never advise someone to touch a person along the side of the body or down around their legs or whatever. But so maybe he should have taken the TIP training before he went out and visited this woman. But he claimed the employee initiated the hug, and then he said he might have touched her breast accidentally. Now, the interesting thing about this, that I don't know, maybe Jim's different from me, but if I ended up accidentally touching a woman's big breast, it would be indelibly tattooed on my brain for the rest of my life. I don't know. What do you think over there on the other side of the glass? You guys, Mike, what's Mike think? Is Mike on board with this? If he accidentally touched a woman with big breasts, and he didn't mean to, but he got a little handful, is it still with you, Mike? He says yes. So we're taking a survey out here, and it's a scientific survey. And so far we have 100%. There's no females out here, just all males tonight. And so far everybody says if they stumbled in and accidentally, they wanted to comfort this woman, but they accidentally touched a woman with big breasts, they would definitely remember it no matter how, maybe it was the last on their deathbed. They would say, "You remember that gal that I visited that day?" Yeah, they would remember that. That's just a man's brain. A woman touching a woman accidentally probably wouldn't go over that big. But for a guy, it's definitely going to be an unforgettable experience. Now, when Bob Moffett asked for these records, he also got records that included Andrea Foster, who was a gal that came to me, interestingly enough, when Whiteaker was running for office. I think it was in 2001. And she was a young married woman, and she says, "Lou," because I would help people figure out who they're going to vote for. She said, "I don't know who you're going to vote for this district over here, but this fellow in Whiteaker's running, and he used to grab me by the breasts." And I said, "Well, since you said that, I'm probably not going to choose him. I don't know him. I know his father, but I don't know him. But I thank you for telling me that, because that's a problem right there." So she wasn't going to prosecute him. She had left Yuba City High School and got out of there as fast as she could. She was horrified and went on to college and just thought, I just nobody's going to pay attention to me. Now, what she thought when she left Yuba City High School was exactly, she had the right thinking, because the school district, regardless of the mandatory or mandated reporting laws, and the police department did nothing to protect her or to take her case. So therefore, after she left in 1998, after that event in 1998, this went on for over 20 years, girl after girl after girl, according to what the women are saying. And her husband, when he went before the board, he said, you know, if you would have acted on my wife's, when she was a single young woman at your high school, if you would have acted properly, we would have spared all these young women from being exposed to this guy, right? So what's happened is what this whole case has revealed is that the very people in our community, when you think of who should protect children, well, you would think schools should protect children instead of telling them to maybe they're a transsexual or maybe they're a homosexual. You think they should protect children, or instead of telling them how to put a condom on a wooden penis, right? So you'd think they'd protect them. And then you think, well, the police should protect people. But then when the police, not only did the police not do anything, but now when the media wants to see a copy of the report, they say, we don't have to give you a copy of the report, right? So the police are refusing. They say state law does not mandate that we give you a copy of the report, so there. So the police not only did not act, but they won't even be transparent about their situation. So you had the school that for a long time, until Gabe Foster, Andrea Foster's husband, went in and asked for a copy of the report. And in fact, they couldn't even find out what the outcome was on the appropriate action. They said we took appropriate action. And the principal, Bill Highland, until recently, he just ignored the whole thing, said, I don't remember anything. I'm an old man, and he lives over here in Yuba City. I don't remember a thing. Well, then where Bob Moffett finally showed him the very file that has his name in it, he said, oh, well, I guess I remember that now. I said, darn, how that comes back. You know something, people? I thought adults were supposed to be responsible, follow the rules, follow the law, and do the right thing, no matter if it's going to incriminate somebody that's a big shot. His dad's the sheriff. He makes a lot of money. He's got a lot of political clout. Well, he's a good guy. I don't know whether you guys saw the school board meeting where the three physical education teachers walked in. They looked like they all had cancer. They looked so sick when they walked in, and they were petrified. And they told what a wonderful guy Jim Whiteaker was in the face of all this whole room full of people that said he molested me. Now, honestly, well, I don't want to spend any more time on it. I think I spent enough, but I found that the California Public Radio, you think, oh, well, Lou Benninger, he just hates Jim Whiteaker. I don't hate him. I don't hate him. I have never been out for him. If I was, I would have started in 2001 when I first learned about it. But I went on with my life. The lady didn't want to do anything. And so I don't hate him. I just think that people that are in authority, places of authority, either ought to put up or shut up. You get it? Put up or shut up. Because we're paying you $100,000, $125,000, $150,000, $200,000, $225,000. For what? For what? To get a nice haircut? To wear a nice uniform? To wear a zoot suit? To wear, slick shoes? To belong to the racket club? Like, why don't you do your job? How about doing your job? How about it's one thing if you can't catch a gangbanger or MS-13 person, but how about protecting a 13-year-old daughter of somebody? How's about that? How about taking that serious? How about being a mandated reporter? I get so sick of people, oh, you out the church. You're mandated reporters. You're not taking care of business. All these people, you guys work for the government that create all these laws. You don't even follow your own rules. Don't even follow your own rules. You can't even educate the kids that you're getting $20,000 a head to do. So anyway, that's Jim Whiteaker. I want to talk about, we just got a little over a half hour left. In the Sunday Appeal Democrat, top article, April 15, says Sheriff, $6.5 million ICE contract is critical. $6.5 million ICE. That means immigration and customs enforcement. What that means is in Yuba County, starting in the early 1990s, Yuba County started renting bed space because they built that jail to have surplus bed space to be an income maker for the county. At that time, Yuba County, just like every other county in California, they collected taxes, right? And the primary reason that a county collects taxes is to take care of fire and law enforcement. That's the primary reason you incorporate into a county, is to provide, protect, and serve, protect people and private property. So the top use of tax dollars should go to sheriff, police, fire, right? So every county collects taxes in a variety of ways. I don't have time to get into all the weeds on this. Up until the early 90s, all the departments in every county submit their budgets, whether they're an elected official or they're appointed, they submit their budgets to the County Board of Supervisors, 5 individuals. That County Board of Supervisors argues, whines, but eventually puts their good housekeeping stamp approval on the budget and said, this budget is balanced, right? And this is what you're going to get, whether you like it or not. And then they live on it. So up until the early 90s, taxes came in, and the sheriff department got financed by those taxes. You got it? Hold that thought. Then Gary Tyndall, who was sheriff at that time, came up with this ingenious idea to build enough bed space to bring in money from the federal government, and they would take care of immigration people that were here illegally, or they violated the law, so they were going to maybe get deported. So they had to hold them somewhere. They had already served their sentence somewhere else. So these were just immigration holds. And so they were going to get $60 or $70 a night. Now that's almost up to almost $100 a night to take care of them, feed them, clothe them, do their medical, right? And a few other services, right? So they're making about, they started making 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now they say in this sheriff's article in the April 15th Appeal Democrat, $6.5 million a year. Sheriff Durfer, who didn't create this system but had to live on it, what happened is we went from Gary Tyndall to Sheriff Black. She did 8 years. And then we went to Steve Durfer, who has done 3 terms, 12 years, right? So what happened? Here's what happened. Instead of the tax dollars that you and I pay in Yuba County, and you do in Nevada, Placer, Colusa, all the counties, your taxes go into the county and they take care of the sheriff's department, right? Every county has a sheriff's department. They may not have city police, but they have a sheriff's department. So their tax dollars go to support that sheriff's department. What happened is, because this ICE money was coming in, because the jail had to be bigger to take care of these ICE inmates, right? So the money that the feds were given was enough to take care of the ICE inmates plus profit. There was a lot of profit, right? So instead of setting that money aside in a rainy day fund or a special projects fund and continue to fund the sheriff's department with portion of ICE money, and then the rest of the money that they would get to run their normal sheriff's operation, patrol, the normal jail for the local offenders, dispatch, the supervisors who make these decisions, and the county administrator, the guys before Bob Bendorf and then Bob Bendorf, took that money and gave raises, and gave retroactive raises, longevity raises, and raised some salaries up to $1,000, $2,000 a month. And then when those guys retired out, they took those salaries into the CalPERS pension deal. They spent the money that they should have been putting in the sheriff's department out of the tax dollars that they were harvesting from the folks. They took that money and spent it elsewhere. They expanded the payroll of the county. When you look at, if you go to transparentcalifornia.com, you will see how many employees the county of Yuba has. They have 1 employee for about every 70 residents. I want you to think about that. 1 employee for every 70 residents. You think, what the hell do they do? That's my question. And whatever they're doing, we don't need them because we can't afford them. So here's what's happened. They're floating the idea of a 1% sales tax in the county. That's one thing they're doing because they're broke. If ICE tomorrow, if the state of California said no ICE holding facilities in the state, the Appeal Democrat says there's 3. There's actually about 9, I believe. If they said you cannot detain ICE people anywhere in the California, you got to move them out, that would mean overnight 6.5 million annually would not be available to Yuba County. That would essentially break the county. And what they would do then, they would lie to the population like they're lying right now. They go out and say, we're taking these surveys to see what you really want. They're just big, fat, blatant, ugly liars, deceivers. They're actually worse than a straight-up liar. They're deceiving the public. Oh, well, we just can't. Well, it's just hard times. You know what's hard times? Because they expanded government, right? It's like you bought the furniture on time. You bought the stereo on time. You bought the cars on time. You got all this debt, right? And you can't pay for it. You made all these commitments you can't carry. So instead of the government being primarily responsible for safety, public safety, they now have expanded into all these other areas. And they can't afford it. They built a new big government center. They built this. They built that, right? So they can't afford. So here, let me tell you what the latest is. The people, because of the floods, the 55 flood literally scared the hell out of people in Yuba County because we should have flooded, but instead Sutter County, it broke first in Sutter County. But it severely mentally impaired and impacted. It scared people to death. It killed a lot of people in Sutter County. It ruined, I don't know how many billions of dollars in damage. Anyway, the supervisors determined to build a new Bullards Bar Dam and create a powerhouse and a whole power facility. And they made an agreement with PG&E. They floated bonds that the people of Yuba County voted to indebt their property to guarantee all those bonds to build that powerhouse and dam, that massive thing for flood control, water distribution, and power. PG&E came along and they said, listen, we will, if you give us all the power for 50 years, we will pay off all your bonds over the 50 years, and then once the 50 years is up, we'll give you the entire asset back for you to run, and then you can decide whether you want to sell the utilities to us, and et cetera, right? In other words, we just buy the utilities from you, the electricity, et cetera. So that's what happened here about a year ago. So what's happened is it was pretty innocent for the last 50 years. There's been different compilations of people on the board, but recently there's been the supervisors of Yuba County also are on that board. The five water agency directors, plus 2 people that are voted on, one north of Yuba County River, or Yuba River, one south of Yuba River in the county. So there's 7 people on the board. But it was kind of innocuous because, hey, they eventually started to sell some of the water to Southern California, and they started making a lot of money. In fact, one year, a few years ago, they made $20 million of water, selling water to Sutter County. That was just going to go down the river anyway. So all of a sudden they started making all this water on water sales. And so then when they got the power sales, now they can make up to $50 million a year on power sales, right? And so they got all this money. They are the biggest financial powerhouse in the 2 counties. And so now what it's become is a petty cash grab for they're running the county bankrupt, right? The sheriff's gone bankrupt. They can't even fund enough patrol officers because they've taken all the funding of the sheriff's department away and said, you just run on the ICE funding. Well, they can't run on the ICE funding. There's not enough. There's not enough. They can take care of the ICE people, plus there's a profit, but there's not enough funding to cover the whole sheriff's department on ICE because they kept sucking off all the sheriff's money, which was their primary responsibility. And you got people like Robert Bendorf making almost $300,000 a year, right? You got people that are the head of Health and Human Services making $250,000 a year. in a little old poor county of Yuba, one of the poorest counties of 58. And now they have this petty cash fund called the Yuba County Water Agency. So what they did now, they got all these water sales, right? And finally, the information is coming out that when they worked out this configuration, and I don't know that I can spend a lot of time on it to get you totally up to date on how these people got this money, but there's about 7 different water districts. And I'll name them for you in the future. I'll probably write an article in the Territorial Dispatch. But you have these water districts who distribute water to these farmers that are raising crops, right? And so once the water behind the dam began to be controlled, and it just didn't run on down the stream, but they could measure it out, and they built canals back into the North and the South County, then farmers could get water right off the river. And it's cheaper to get water that's running in ditches than have to pump it and drill wells and pump it up straight up, right? It's a lot less expensive. So you buy it by the acre feet. So they were getting a lot of cheap water from the Yuba River. But then these big water districts in Southern California said, we're running out of water. And so in 1991, the water resources people in the state said, we're going to say it was a drought, and they said we're going to nullify all the water rights in the state, and we're taking all the water, and we'll decide how to distribute it. But the water people up here said, please don't do that. There's a big discussion of attorneys. The water people from the South, individuals, the water districts got together with North, and they said, hey, let's work out a plan. And you can't just pump water out of the ground and sell it off your property. It's a state law. You can't do it. But you could take river water and move it down to Southern California. So they worked out a plan that if the farmers up here would pump water and they would meter how much they're pumping, like they'd put a meter on the well, and they could keep track of how many acre feet they were pumping. And then the water agency, the Yuba County Water Agency that had the river water, would say, listen, we're going to sell the river water, but we're going to reimburse you. Instead of using the river water, we're going to sell that, but we're going to reimburse you for the costs of pumping, plus we're going to give you a profit. So maybe it costs them $35 an acre foot to pump. We'll give you $115. So it was quite a deal for them to go through the rigmarole to pump, right? So what happened is, but eventually the water people in the South said, well, we'll give you more money than that for it. And so instead of like saying, well, who really owns the water? Who really, it's like if I want to drink a glass of water, I have to pay Cal Water for that at my house. I'm paying Cal Water. If I want to water the lawn, I have to pay for that water. And so the farmers, if they want to grow crops with that water, that's one thing. But then if the water agency ends up selling that water and dividing up the money with farmers, that money should be divided up of all the people in Yuba County who built the dam. Because if the dam wasn't there, the water wouldn't be managed so we could distribute it properly. And so you know who got all the money? There's 100 farming entities that are bringing in over 60-some million a year off water. They may be growing crops or they may not be growing crops, but whatever they're doing, they're selling water. They're getting reimbursed for pumping water, and they're getting reimbursed for the water that they're selling down the river, up to $400 and something a year, depending on, in other words, if it's a real dry year. If it's a wet year, we wouldn't sell much water. But if it's a dry year, because the management of the Yuba River with the dam has actually replenished all the aquifers, because we sent the water out into these canals and we flood the rice fields, and it's actually sinking down, and the aquifers are big, they're full, or they're charged. Whereas down south on a dry year, the aquifers are gone. They're gone, and they need water. So on the dry years, they'll pay a lot of money, right? Because they got to take care of their people and their crops and whatever. So what's happening is Charlie Matthews in the we need to take a break? Oh, you got to take a break. Okay, we'll finish this on the backside and we'll finish up. in the last half hour here of Live with Lou, and this is the Patriot 1410 AM. I wanted to mention that, I mentioned earlier that the Yuba Sutter Tea Party Patriots helps us stay on the air out here. The other organization, other business that does so as well is Elite Universal Security, that is headquartered here in Yuba County, but is actually up and down the valley. It's in Sutter County. It's in Chico, Redding. So it's a security business that is growing, and it's kind of amazing. It's actually got a school that you can attend and get a lot of the courses to prepare to get into the security business, or even move on into law enforcement. Or if you just want to learn how to shoot, you need to have a hunter safety card, or you want to get a concealed weapon permit. And so the Elite Universal Security here in Yuba County, or what they have what they call API Academy, API-academy.com or EliteUniversalSecurity.com. You can find out a lot at both of those websites. But let me tell you, I was checking it out here earlier before I came out to the station to see what was shaking, right, what they had going on. And they have on April 28th and 29th a firearms class. They have firearms classes for exposed firearms. In other words, if you just want to learn how to handle and get a safety certificate on that you know how to handle a gun. And also they can recertify you or certify you on your concealed weapons permits. So you can pack a gun, or you could have it hiding, inside your clothing or under your seat or whatever you're in your car, however you want to do it. So April 28th and 29th, that's local. And so all you have to do is give them a call, and that's 749-0280. And they'll have a dispatcher answer the phone, but you can just sign up for that and go out and figure out what's going on. But they do all kinds of courses to get you ready if you want to get a job. So when I went on the website at EliteUniversalSecurity.com, they said, hey, we're hiring. And I thought, oh, look at that, man. They're hiring for full-time. They said on this website they had now hiring all locations. In other words, Yuba County, Sutter County, Chico, Redding, all locations. And it said current openings, full-time patrol driver, Chico area, armed officer, Chico area, part-time officers, all areas. I thought, hey, if, I run into people all the time. They're hiring all the time. I mean, I've even seen some of my friends that are parolees and felons that are getting hired at good jobs. So there's good jobs out there. I was talking to Monty Hecker, who owns and started this organization. Monty is a vet, and he was just telling me all the successes that we have around the area. And I was just going to look at something I wanted to read to you that I thought was fascinating on his website. I cut and pasted it. It says Elite is not only an American-owned business, it's an operated company, owned and operated company, but a disabled veteran-owned and operated company. So if you're a veteran, they would really take a close look at you at hiring you. Now, this is what I liked. It says, as a professional security company, we realize that as a business owner, your time and money are valuable, etc. We take pride in our history of working with each and every individual client and custom tailoring a security service that is right for you and your business, saving you valuable time and money. They got all kinds of stories how they solved problems that people were having with people getting into their business and fussing around and doing nasty stuff around their business. So then they say down here at the bottom, Elite Universal Security has taken customer service to a whole new level. I want you to think about this when you think about law enforcement, etc. All our management staff at our local offices are residents of the community that they work in. So they have a vested interest in ensuring that you are satisfied with your service. I want you to think about that. You think that's important to have the people that are serving you living in the same community that they're protecting? I had a conversation with a retired firefighter from Yuba City Firefighting the other day, and he was a big tip supporter, still is, but when he was working. He was helping us out a lot. And he was saying, we were talking about tip and the fact that law enforcement, a lot of firefighting didn't support tip any longer, and financially. And he said the reason, Lou, is they don't live here anymore. He said a lot of them, they live in Rockland. They're making a lot of money, he said, and they live in nicer communities, and so they just come here to work, take their money, and go home. And I thought, it's interesting. I've been pondering that because I know some that are up there living in Lake Wildwood, Rockland. It's like, hey, nobody's telling them they have to live here. But it's interesting how universal security, when I was looking on Monty Hecker's website, when he said all our management staff at our local offices are residents of the community that they work in. So, in other words, Monty gets it that if you live in a community that you work in, you're going to have a stake in doing a great job. And because you're investing in this community, and if the community goes to crap, it affects your property values, right? So if you're coming into this community and serving, hey, if the community's struggling, so what? You live in another community, right? And you don't have any skin in the game. Remember, Obama said we need people to have skin in the game. In addition, he says our local management staff are available at any time, day or night, to answer your questions. And should they not be able to resolve a situation to your satisfaction, a member of the corporate staff will personally make contact with you many times face-to-face to ensure that the situation is understood. Wouldn't that be amazing if the local law enforcement, I like law enforcement. I work with law enforcement every day, and I'm in the Yuba County Jail at least twice a week, right? I'm supportive of law enforcement, all the branches. If law enforcement bought into Monty Hecker's esprit de corps statement here on his website, I think we would have a different, I don't think we could operate in the police departments or the sheriff's departments. Like I called a lady that's well-versed in Marysville Police Department. I said, hey, where's the chief live in Marysville? She says he lives in Yuba City, right? There hasn't been a chief live in Marysville for decades. Hold that thought. Wouldn't it be interesting if the chief of the police of Marysville lived in Marysville? You know, Steve Durfer, the sheriff of Yuba County, he doesn't have to live in Marysville. He could live out in the foothills, right? Up in a 50 or 100-acre resort up there, right? Just come into town when he had to do business and just not have any skin in the game. He lives right in the center of Marysville, right down out in East Marysville. So I appreciate the fact that elite security is here, and they got a stake. In other words, how good they do is going to determine how good Olivehurst, Linda, Marysville, Sutter County, Yuba City does. So way to go, Monty Hecker. So if you need a good security service, call 749-0280. So I was talking to you before the break about these pumpers who, before the early 90s, didn't give any income except by growing rice, growing peaches, almonds, tomatoes, whatever, right? That's how they made their living. And then all of a sudden, through this miracle of transfer of water, they got to sell something they didn't create. God created the water, right? It's like me bottling the air and selling it to Southern California. It has a lot of smog, and I just sold them gargantuan tanks of air. I didn't create it, but I just cornered the market on air. What's happened is 100 pumpers in the Yuba County Water Agency. You know, it's interesting. Yuba County Water Agency, they talk like they own the water. They talk like they're separate from the county. They talk like the supervisors, the supervisors have a conflict of interest serving on the Yuba County Water Agency because they could run the county into the ground financially and just reach over there and grab another wad of money out of the Yuba County Water Agency when they don't have a right to that money. That's all of our money, and we should have a say over that money. Now, they'll say to you, because one person said one time, well, because we're creating power right now, we could actually sell power to the residents of Yuba County cheaper. People could have cheaper power. And people say, oh, you can't do that. Well, I got a document that was given to me last week, that was a PG&E document that had researched that, and they said back in 2006 they would simply create a holding fund where a certain amount of dollars were put in there by the Yuba County Water Agency that's selling power to them, right? They're selling power. They're selling power to whoever will give them the best price, but a PG&E, they give money to PG&E into a fund, right, an escrow account, if you will, or a fund, and then they say, hey, during the heavy months of the year, we want you to apply that money against all the bills and give everybody $100, right? And it's just like Alaska does with their oil. Alaskan people have got anywhere from $1,200 to $2,500 a year. If you've lived there for at least a year or you were born there, like if you had 5 kids, every kid would get that plus you and your husband. So that PG&E said, we got that. We could deduct a certain amount off every bill in Yuba County, certain times of the year or whenever. We could do it every month of the year, every pay time. So there's all kinds of ways to. In other words, how is this benefiting? You know, the Yuba County Water Agency say, well, we're benefiting. We're building up the levees. We're but here's what they're doing. Right now, there's a supervisor's race in the 5th district. That's the mountain area, right? So isn't it a coincidence? Because there's competition. There's 3 people running for that office. So Randy Fletcher, who's the incumbent, he worked out a deal where they bought a new fire engine for the Foothill Fire Department. Now, who do you think the Foothill Fire Department is going to vote for, right? So what happens is in all these situations, because government's got their big nose in everybody's business, politicians then say to the fire department and the people of the foothills, well, when I was on the County Water Agency board, where the hell do you think you got that fire engine from, right? $250,000. You guys have any of that money up there? How you gonna buy a fire engine these days, right? We don't have any more tax money, but old Randy, we came up with $250,000, pay for that fire engine. You could fight a fire. So what the Water Agency has been saying is wherever we can find a nexus, N-E-X-U-S, a connection, a reason, if it's related to the Bullards Bar Dam or flood control, we'll give money towards that, right? So they said, well, this fire department, in case we ever have a fire up there at Bullards Bar Dam, that fire department's going to have to come down there, and they don't have a fire truck, by God. Well, before Bullards Bar Dam, I wonder how they ended up getting those fire trucks. It's interesting. You think, how did we do this before we had all this fat cash? And then they paved North Beale Road. What was the justification for that? Let's see. Well, people need to drive on roadways in case the water gets high. So now we're using the water agency money to pave our roads, whereas it used to be that the tax dollars that people paid their taxes was enough. Before they raised all the pay, before they raised all the pensions, it was enough to build the culverts, put in the roads, pave the roads, take care of the sheriff's department. But now with the ice, as Steve Durfer calls it, crack ice, right? Because we can't live without it, because we quit eating right? All we do is use methamphetamines, and so we feel good, but we're really sick as a dog. So it looks like we got all this money, but the county is financially sick as a dog. So now all the things that the county used to pay for, the Yuba County Water Agency is paying for. So if they find a nexus, so I'm going to change my name to Lou Waters, because if I have the last name of Waters, there's a nexus between water and my last name. It's kind of like if I have a Mexican surname, even though I'm not Mexican, then it doesn't matter whether I'm white or not. It's like Rory Ramirez has a Mexican surname, but he's white as white. But if you have a Mexican surname, you may get favorable treatment with state contracting because they favor minorities, right? So if my last name is Waters, if I can change my name from Benninger to Waters, then they might give me a grant. They say they're handing out these $5,000 grants, things that are connected to benefit the water. So, for instance, they cleaned up all the garbage because they didn't want to enforce the law on transients. So they had to go down and pick up, 300 tons of garbage Why did they do that? Well, they said, well, you know, it's our responsibility. Even though they threw it there, it's going to pollute the waters. So now we're going to spend Yuba County Water Agency money. Right? If they didn't have the Yuba County Water Agency money, what would we have done? They'd have probably enforced the law and put people in jail for dumping all that garbage, but said, oh, we don't want to go through all that court stuff. Let's just go. We got all this money. I didn't benefit by that. Let that crap float down to Jerry Brown. I don't give a crap. Let the water get up there and flood all those places out and dump all that gasoline. It's just going to end up in the ocean anyway. And you think, oh, Lou, you don't want to do that. That's what they just did in this high water. The water came up. They didn't go down there and clean up. They let those people move back into camps again. They didn't go out there this time. And the Yuba County Water Agency, they said, oh, we're going to give $70,000. It's easy to spend somebody else's money, isn't it? It's easy to spend somebody else's money. Try spending $70,000 out of your own pocket. You don't see Robert Bendorf donating any money towards cleaning up the river bottoms. No, they just said, we're just going to speak for Lou Benninger. We're going to spend some of his money down there. Who owns that? Who owns a Yuba County Water Agency? So when Charlie Matthews, he's a rice farmer. He's one of the pumpers, and he's the one that wanted to put an initiative on the ballot to cut the amount the pumpers are earning back to the $100 or $115, and only give the water agency $15 per acre, and then give the rest to the citizens and to the other water districts. Spread it around. Everybody plays. Everybody wins. You know who raised $120,000 or $30,000 to fight that? The pumpers. And you know what they did? They got enough signatures. Matthews got enough signatures to put it on the ballot. They went to Terry Hansen. They got an attorney, the water agency, and said, no, that's got to come through the water agency. They tied it up legally, and they violated the constitutional rights of the citizens of the county of Yuba, and there's precedent saying that legal entities like the water agency or a county or a city cannot stop items going on the ballot if they have sufficient signatures. If they want to challenge them after the thing gets voted on, that they can do that. But they can't block things from going on the ballot. What'd they do? They blocked it. Why did they want to do it? Because 100 pumpers and the water agency people are making a big cash. You know how much supervisors, they're already getting paid once. Then they just switch hats and they get paid a second time. You know how much they're getting paid? They're getting 15 to 20 grand a year off meeting. What do they meet? Once a month, twice a month on that water agency board? They don't do any heavy lifting over there. It's just a cash cow. It's just a cash cow. So they're trying to preserve the cash. Let me tell you how much. We got a few minutes left. Let me tell you, this is like unbelievable. So Charlie Matthews, he says that a pump, if it has a capacity of 3,500 gallons a minute, you know our pump at the church was what, 35 gallons a minute? These pumps will put out 3,500 gallons a minute, man. Or let's call it 1,500 acre feet a day. 15 acre feet a day. Okay? Let's say they pump 15 acre feet a day or 450 acre feet a month. Write this down. 15 a day or 450 a month. 15 times 30 is 450. 400 acre feet a month. So if the electrical cost is $35 an acre foot, so you can toy around with how much that's costing them a month to pump. 35 times 450 acre feet. So if the pumper gets $400 an acre foot minus the 35, they were getting a net profit of $365 per acre foot. That comes out to $164,000 a month. 450 acre feet per month times $365 net. That's after all their electricity, all their pumping costs, repairing the pump, maintaining the pump. $365 net. They're making $164,000 a month. Did they create a carrot for you to eat? No, they didn't do jack. All they did is move water around and cash in on something they didn't create. None of those people up there were involved in creating Buller's Bar Dam. The people of Yuba County went out and indebted their property to secure those bonds. And in perpetuity, the people of Yuba County should benefit from that dam, not 100 pumpers. It's totally a ripoff. I know some of them. They ain't going to be happy with me because they used to like me, but this is just the way it is. It's like, hey, you're cutting yourself a fat hog, dude, and you're getting money that should be everybody's money. I have no problem with people making $1 bajillion a day. I am not jealous of Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook. I am not jealous of the Google people. I'm not jealous of Microsoft, Apple, anybody that has a big trucking firm locally. They're doing good. They're making $1 million a year. God bless you. I do not have a jealous bone in my body. I have never been interested in money. I got enough money to live on. I got more money than I know what to do with. I eat a few times a day, and I get full, and I wish I could eat more, but I just get fat. So I don't eat so much, and I got a place to live, thank God, and I'm healthy, and I'm good. I'm good. I got money to help other people. I spend money on other people. It makes me feel good. What you do with your money, God bless you. Spend it on, I don't care what you spend it on. You do what you want. Make millions of dollars. My problem is, in this county, in this country, when people are ripping off citizens, I just don't think that's right. I don't think you should do that. If you want to sell me a bushel of apples and I buy them and we agree on the price and you just rip me a good one, but that's all I wanted. I thought, hey, that's what I wanted to pay for them. I don't feel bad. You made a lot of money on them. But when you're selling something that you don't even own, you don't even own it. You may own a little bit of it, but maybe that ain't right. Are we done? We're done. So listen, if you run into somebody this week, and you think, man, that person's a unique person. The Bible says they may be an angel and you not even know it. So it says, be careful how you take care of them. All right. So we'll see you next week, and we'll be live. In other words, you can call in and yak at us if you want next week. All right. See you later.